In 1825, Nicholas I ascended to the throne of Russia. At this time, a rebellion had broken out led by liberals insisting that Russia should modernize. After decimating this rebellion, Nicholas sentenced one of its leaders to death, Kondratij Rylyev. On the day of his execution, they put the rope around his neck as he stood on the gallows, and the trapdoor opened. Now that should have been the end of Rylyev. However, as he hung there, the rope actually ended up breaking, saving this poor fellow's life. Now typically, around this time period, these sorts of events were considered miracles or heavenly acts, and thus the individual at hand was typically pardoned. So, as he lay there on the ground, bruised, he gathered himself and stated, "You see, in Russia, they don't know how to do anything properly, not even how to make rope." A messenger went to tell Nicholas precisely what had happened. Disappointed with the news, Nicholas nevertheless began to sign the pardon. But as he did, he asked, "Did he say anything after this event?" The messenger replied, "Sir," he said, "in Russia they don't even know how to make rope." Nicholas replied, "Well, then let us prove the contrary." And so the next day, Rylyev was hung again, and this time, the rope broke again. Just kidding, he died. Rylyev was a f***ing idiot. Maybe he wasn't, but nonetheless, that's how we remember him, even if he thought that's not how he would have been remembered. You see, if Rylyev would have just lost his job and gotten cancelled, among other things, he would be saying right now, "You know, it was actually worth it to utter that statement for my principles, for my ideals," and he would convince himself of such a thing. But this is delusion, and this is the same cope that all of you tell yourself when you utter things that you probably shouldn't have. You see, now, his quality of life is going to be hindered because he's going to lose his job, among other things, all because he couldn't resist the temporary satisfaction of saying something that he probably shouldn't have said. In his mind, he thinks that people are going to perceive him as some fearless outlier, somebody who doesn't care what other people think, someone who stands for his principles and his ideals. But in reality, people are just going to forget about him in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the ramifications from what he stated may indeed remain for much longer than that. You see, you have to weigh the pros and cons with everything in life. You have to analyze the risk and the reward. Because once the words are out, you can no longer take them back. We live in a very interesting time period. A time period where you could be ridiculed online and even lose your job, all for making some comments about a bodega shop.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here today to apologize.
Why did you say ladies first?
In a time where your statements could go viral so easily with just a few clicks on your phone, it matters now more than ever that you learn and practice how to tame your tongue. Now, I understand a majority of you guys are going to disagree with me. I want you to know that I fully understand your argument, and I do suppose that everything is perspective with quality of life. But what I'm trying to tell you is that your perspective is flawed and misinformed, and it's clouded by your emotions. You're consistently making this trade-off in life in which you're always getting the shorter end of the stick, and it's a result of your emotions, because you can't resist the temporary satisfaction. This doesn't have to be getting canceled. In a majority of cases, it's simply you saying something unfavorable to your friends or family, resulting in you being a less likable person.
You're famous somehow and I'm famous.
Yo, you're in trouble.
Why? Oh shit.
That crypto shit.
Hey Steve, get his ass from right now.
What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Hey, how we doing though?
Real good.
You good?
I just did a podcast with Tana Mojo. It was so raw, so real.
Hey.
Hey, Mr.
Yo, buddy.
Gemini.
And when you have no friends, you're going to cope and tell yourself, well, I'm just an honest person. Steve Jobs was an honest person and he was very successful. The truth is, you're an addict who can't stop saying stupid shit for the temporary satisfaction. Or perhaps you just want to show everybody just how smart you are when politics where other controversial topics are brought up. You see, people with above average IQs are able to recognize patterns quite well, and with that comes the ability to recognize contradictions and double standards. And so they're very frequently telling everybody about these double standards and contradictions that exist in politics, whether it's going to be about race, sexuality, gender, policy, it doesn't matter. These contradictions and double standards exist on both ends of the spectrum, and people who tend to have high IQs are able to recognize these. And these people love to talk about these contradictions and double standards, regardless of the topic, at every single opportunity. Why? Because it's an opportunity to demonstrate how smart you are, or at least from their perspective. But regardless of how high somebody's IQ is, regardless of their ability to recognize these patterns, these contradictions, people with very high practical intelligence, whether they could recognize those or not, will refrain from ever engaging in such topics. Or perhaps they'll just pretend to agree, because they know that that's what's in their best interest, for their quality of life. But regardless of somebody's IQ, it seems that a lot of these very high IQ individuals don't seem to understand this. Now, why is it that people with very high practical intelligence don't engage? It's because they understand that no matter how many facts they bring up, it's simply going to alienate the other party. So, they realize it's in their best interest to simply not engage with such a discussion. And the media understands this, by the way. The media knows that they could put out some kind of story with some contradiction or double standard in it that you're just going to have to engage with. You just have to quote it, you just have to retweet it and leave your comment showing off, how stupid this is or how unfair it is. But the truth is, you're just a pawn. They wanted you to find that contradiction. They wanted you to feel that way. They wanted you to think you're smart. And now we're more divided because of it. Truth is, you're just another cog in the wheel. Now, there actually is a reversal to this, and that's if you could find some sort of way to monetize or benefit, or maybe you have some bigger plan with an audience that you're building off of these controversial statements. Feel free to subscribe, by the way. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to weighing the pros and the cons. If you could somehow find a way for the pros to outweigh the cons when it comes to these sorts of statements that you're making, then more power to you. But I believe the overwhelming majority of you guys are not doing this. You probably don't have a plan with some of these controversial things you're saying, especially when it comes to just chatting with your friends. The truth is, you're just acting emotionally, and you can't tame your tongue. So, next time you're with your friends, and you're able to spot some kind of contradiction, because perhaps you have a high IQ and you're a smart individual, try to restrain yourself. I want you to take a note and feel that burning desire to jump in and call out that contradiction, but tame your tongue and refrain from doing it. See how long you can last. But anyway, that's going to conclude it for today. Just shut up. It'll pay dividends, I promise.